The state of play, Station 5, see what I did there, is not looking too great, especially after the abysmal state of play presentation that has been long anticipated and hyped up by the PlayStation community as the opportunity for Sony to show what they have been cooking first-party wise after a very long drought of their first-party studios putting out anything aside from Astrobot that's actually worth a damn. And well, after watching the state of play yesterday, I don't really think anyone's minds have been changed in that regard. In fact, this is probably one of the worst state of plays that I can personally remember. And overall, if you're basing your optimism for the future of the PlayStation brand off of this presentation, then I don't really think you're going to be looking at it in a very positive light. Now, what we're going to be doing here today is going through the state of play and break it down point by point and talk about each game that was shown off at this event. And I'll just give you guys my general thoughts on each of them as we go through it. So yeah, let's go ahead and kick this off. So the first game that they showed off during the 2024 State of Play was Astrobot free DLC. Now, this was not actually an announcement. If you've been following Astrobot related news leading up to launch, this was already announced 4 weeks ago. So I guess they showed it off for the first time, but this was not actually news if you've been following the news surrounding Astrobot. But yeah, I guess it's fine. 5 new time trial levels. That's probably about 10 to 15 minutes of content at most, if you really break it down. But I mean, it's free DLC, so I'm not really going to bitch about it too much. But I wouldn't really say that that was a show opening worthy announcement personally. I think it's because Astrobot, regardless of how good the game is, I don't think is selling incredibly well for PlayStation. So I'm guessing they were hoping to maybe advertise the game a little bit and get some more people to pick up the game and hop on board if they haven't already. So yeah, Astrobot looks fine. I personally really enjoyed the game, gave it an 8 out of 10, and I think you should definitely play it. So free DLC is never a bad thing, and plus the Stellar Blade Astrobot is always a welcome addition. So yeah, moving on from that, we went on to a game called Midnight Walk, which is like some claymation pseudo horror slash VR game that you can play in VR or out of VR. And honestly, this game is not for me, man. It's one of those artsy ass games that personally I will never touch, but I guess whatever, it's cool if you're interested. So moving on after that was a game called Hell Is Us, which looked like a bastardized child of Death Stranding and Dark Souls. And honestly, looking at this again, zero interest on my part. I don't think it looks very good at all. It just looks like a game that's trying to capitalize on the ideas that other more popular games have already done, mixing them together to try and farm money from both of the fan bases. So I guess, yeah, it's there if you're interested in it. For me, I literally could not care less about it. So after that, we moved on to a PlayStation VR 2 announcement for Metro Awakening VR. I don't have a PlayStation VR. I will probably never buy a PlayStation VR, so therefore I will never care about PlayStation VR games personally. Now, after this was actually a game that looked pretty interesting to me personally. It was called Arc Age Chronicles, which I didn't really get a feel for what this game was. It kind of looked like an MMO. It kind of looked like an action RPG. I don't know. I need to see like actual uncut gameplay footage, but I love the setting of the game. I love the combat style. I like the aesthetic of it. So personally, I love fantasy RPG action type titles. So I'll probably check this out and look into it if we get more information on it. So I did think this was actually one of the highlights of the show, which again, I do need to see more gameplay before I can like definitively say whether I'm like actually interested or not, but it definitely caught my attention and I will be following the news related to it to see how it does pan out leading up to release and once we actually get some real gameplay. So I think this was actually one of the better things they showed off during the presentation. After that was the announcement for Pal World for the PlayStation 5, and Pal World to me is absolute fucking slop. I could not stand this game. It was fun for like the first 5 to 10 hours, but it quickly devolved into one of the most buggy, broken piles of shit I think I've ever played in my entire life. life. Like, you literally could not beat the gems in this game when it came out because the pals just refused to attack enemy pals at times, especially in the gym battles. So I don't really have a great relationship with Pal World at this point. This game completely soured on me the more that I played it, and it just became more and more of a shameless Pokemon / survival game clone that honestly I don't ever want to play again. But if you're interested in Pal World, it is out on the PlayStation 5 now in every single country except Japan because of that lawsuit with Nintendo. So yeah, there you go. If you're interested in Pal World on PlayStation 5 and you've been waiting to play it, you can now check it out, man, and see what you've been missing out on all this time. So the next announcement was the Lunar Remastered collection. Now, personally, I am interested in this. I've never played these games before, and as someone who has been getting into PS1 era RPGs recently, I think this was definitely cool. I will check this out, but I don't really think this was worthy of a state of play announcement. It's just a multi-plat remaster that's coming to every single platform out there. So while it's definitely something I'm interested in, I don't really think this was the type of announcement to make or break a showcase like this. So yeah, I mean, it's cool for what it is. I'll probably pick that up and try it out for myself since I've never actually played it. They showed off more content for TMNT Shredder's Revenge. You could not pay me to care about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so zero interest on this whatsoever. Then they showed off Sonic X Shadow Generations and announced that, you know, heckin' wholesome Reddit approved Keanu Reeves would be voicing Shadow in the Shadow portion of Generations, which I don't really see as a positive personally. Keanu Reeves is one of the worst actors in Hollywood that only gets jobs because people like him. He has no emotional range and sounds the exact same in literally every single role he plays. So yeah, I think this is more of a negative than a positive. I would have much rather had the iconic Shadow the Hedgehog voice actor back that we all know and love.
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
After that was another game that I'm actually interested in, but this has already been previously announced at the Nintendo Direct, which is Fantasian Neo Dimension. Now, this is from the original creator of Final Fantasy, and it's a mobile game that he made that is now getting ported to modern consoles. And honestly, as a Final Fantasy simp myself, I have to pick this shit up. So I think it actually looks cool. They were talking about how they crafted the different environments using like real world dioramas, and you like walk through that using like 3D imaging and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's kind of neat. But yeah, it's a game made by the creator of Final Fantasy, so I gotta pick this up and try it out for myself regardless. So yeah, I guess that was fine, but again, nothing new. This was already announced like several months ago at the Nintendo Direct. So after that, they showed off a way too long gameplay demo of Dragon Age the Veilguard, and this looked absolutely horrible, bro. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with that game. Like, the resolution looked incredibly low. The game was running at like 15 to 24 frames per second the entire time. It looked fidelity-wise like an early generation Xbox One title, in my opinion. Like, this was not a good showing of this game whatsoever. It just keeps looking worse and worse the more they show it off. So, I mean, now I don't even have an interest in the gameplay itself, where previously I did. Now, granted, I'm not buying this game for obvious reasons surrounding the wonderful content that the politically driven devs have implemented into it. So, this game's already a no-go for me, but I really think the gameplay they showed off here did way more harm than good, and you could definitely tell that EA paid to have this game promoted in this state of play, because what they showed off was incredibly boring and just overall, I don't think moved the needle for anybody when they saw this gameplay footage, because it looks absolutely dated and extremely underwhelming, just all things considered. So I think this is actually one of the cases of, you know, showing a little bit too much of the game, and it's probably going to do more harm than good in the long run of getting people interested in Dragon Age the Veilguard. So after that, a long gameplay demo, which was like the only gameplay demo of the show, ironically. But following that, we got information on the Alan Walk 2 Lake House DLC, which personally, I could not stand Alan Walk 2. It was incredibly boring, it was incredibly pretentious, and it just did not respect your time whatsoever as a video game with that awful fucking caseboard mechanic. And overall, I genuinely did not enjoy the game, so I think it's actually very fitting that this game still has not broken even for Remedy. They are still in the red when it comes to development costs versus money that this game has made, so they're probably at a very big rush to get this DLC out so they can maybe turn a profit finally on this game and move on to the next one. But yeah, Alan Walk 2's DLC got shown off. Could not care less personally. So after that was Hitman World World of Assassination, another PSVR 2 game, which this one looked alright for the most part. It looked kind of like dumb fun, but again, I don't own a PlayStation VR 2. I will never own a PlayStation VR 2, so therefore this game will never interest me. But I can at least acknowledge it did look good for what it was. It's definitely one of the better PSVR 2 games that I've seen them shown off. So after that was Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered, which this is actually something I'll probably pick up. I never played these back in the day on the PlayStation 1, and again, I've kind of been getting into that era of gaming lately, so I'll probably pick these up, but this did leak before the show or get announced before the show. I don't really know exactly how it worked, but yeah, I'll probably check it out. But again, I don't really think it's anything that needed to be at a dedicated state of play or anything like that. Like, again, it's a third-party remaster for old games. This could have easily just been a trailer drop on YouTube. So while it's, I guess, a good announcement, it's not really something that you need to have a showcase to show off for or a state of play. So after that, they showed off a game from Blumhouse called Fear the Spotlight, which is trying to emulate PlayStation 1 horror games. Not really for me at all. Not a fan of horror games personally, but I guess it looks fine for what it is. Then they showed off some absolute slop tier Towers of Aaba, which is one of those shitty fucking survival world building type games that are a dime a fucking dozen with a quirky art style, dude, that's going to be super cozy or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Zero interest for me on this whatsoever, but I guess if you're into that type of game, you have something to look forward to. Then they announced the Lego Fortnite split screen mode, as well as a Fortnite controller, dude. Now, the Fortnite controller looks like absolute shit. It reminds me of that dog shit LeBum James controller we got in the US when Japan got the Final Fantasy 16 controller. So it has that same kind of just disgusting spray paint aesthetic that looks absolutely horrible. I will not be buying that, and typically I love buying custom controllers. And yeah, I don't know why the fuck anybody thought that a state of play would be a great place to announce Lego Fortnite split screen, but yeah, it's there if you're interested, guys. So after that was Dynasty Warriors Origins, which I have never been a fan of the Dynasty Warriors franchise. It is literally spam Square to win, so yeah, I understand there is a fan base for those type of games. They're incredibly popular over in Japan and Asia, so obviously it's just the case of a game that's not made for me personally, but definitely has its audience. So I guess that's cool if you were looking forward to that. They did show off real gameplay, so that is a plus. And then after that, for the 85th time, we have seen more gameplay of Monster Hunter Wilds, bro. Every single time we have one of these gaming events, they have to show off Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, I understand that they're happy about the game, they're excited for it, they want people to see it, it looks great, but I'm already sold at this point. Like, I don't need to keep seeing more and more and more of this game. Like, leave something to the imagination at this point, or just release the damn game at this point. Because, like, obviously it's done. You don't show off a game this much unless it's actually finished and ready to go. So while I appreciate Capcom's enthusiasm, this is like the 10th gaming event that we've seen, like, actual raw gameplay from this game shown off. Like, I'm at the point now where I've seen almost too much, I feel like, and I'm starting to lose interest every single time this game's mentioned. Like, just release the damn thing at this point. I want to play it for myself. I don't want to keep watching it. So Monster Hunter Wilds looks great. I will definitely be picking it up, but I guess it's cool we got the release date, February 28th, which is right around when I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be launching. So yeah, I guess that's something new at least, but yeah, they don't need to keep showing this game off, bro. Like, everybody is already sold on this game if they're a fan of Monster Hunter or had some interest. Like, give us something new, Capcom. Like, tease a Devil May Cry 1 and 2 remake. Like, that would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, I feel like Monster Hunter Wilds is starting to outstay its welcome at these gaming events, because we've seen almost too much of it at this point for it to have any sort of real impact when it keeps getting shown off over and over and over again. So after that was Lego Horizon Adventures, which looks like absolute fucking slop. I will not be playing this game. Ironically, this Lego game will probably have more gameplay than the real Horizon Zero Dawn, which is pretty funny, but yeah, I have no interest in this game whatsoever. Horizon is one of the most Astrobot astroturfed, fake hype franchises out there that I will never understand why the fuck people actually like. It is one of the most painfully boring games that I've tried to play, and I've tried to play it twice. When it first came out on PS4, I tried to play it, and then when it came out on PC, I bought it and tried to play it again. I was bored to tears on both occasions, so yeah, zero interest for me on this game at all. And then after that, of course, we saw the Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which solely exists so that they could make Aloy as ugly as she is in the second game in the first, just like Neil Cuckman went back and made all the women ugly in the original Last of Us, like in The Last of Us 2. So once again, it's just more Sony slop of re-releasing the exact same game and making it even worse than the original release. So there you go. If you want to buy Horizon Zero Dawn for another $70, you can go pick that up for the PS5, or you can do the $10 upgrade if you already have the game on PlayStation 4. I wouldn't advise spending any money on this game because it is absolutely miserable to play through, at least in my personal experience. Now, after that was actually the highlight of the show for me, and that was the Stellar Blade photo mode in Nier Automata collab, as well as the announcement that the soundtrack would be coming to streaming services. Now, personally, I was not the biggest fan of the soundtrack, but I know a lot of people really like that, so that's definitely exciting news for those interested. But the photo mode is definitely a welcome addition to the game, if you ask me, so I think that is wonderful news. And plus, I'm very excited to see what they do with the Nier Automata collab, because Nier and Stellar Blade are definitely very similar in their gameplay, their character design, and overall story. So I think that'll actually be very neat to see some sort of rendition of Nier in the gameplay style of Stellar Blade. Like, I hope it's not just costumes. I hope we actually get like some content surrounding it, kind of similar to what I don't know, like Final Fantasy XIV did with Nier Automata when they did their collab, where they had like special themed quests and activities within the game. So I think that would actually be really cool. So looking forward to hearing more on that. But yeah, that was definitely the highlight of the show for me. So when a photo mode and Nier Automata collab for Stellar Blade, a game that came out like 5 months ago, is the highlight of your state of play, I don't really think that bodes well for the state of PlayStation 5's first party. But anyway, moving on from that was PlayStation Plus announcements. They're giving away Dead Space next month, which is actually a pretty big W. And then they also mentioned that The Last of Us Part 1 was coming to PlayStation Extra, which who fucking cares? They then announced some new controllers, Indigo and like a green color and Pearl as well, which I guess look fine. I don't really need any more controllers, so I will not personally be buying any of them, but yeah, whatever. More controllers isn't a bad thing. Then they showed off PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced games, which this was a really bad sizzle reel, man. PlayStation is not doing a good job of advertising the PlayStation 5 Pro effectively. Like, if you want to see actual, I guess, good advertising for the PlayStation 5 Pro, go watch Digital Foundry's video on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth running on the Pro versus the base PS5. Like, that might actually sell you on the console. This dog shit sizzle reel garbage that Sony keeps doing is definitely not going to move the needle for anybody and is extremely ineffective at actually showing off what the console can do. So yeah, go watch a video from Digital Foundry instead. It'll be much more eye-opening and will definitely get you more excited for the console. But yeah, wasted time in my opinion. And the final announcement of the show is the one game that literally everyone was expecting to be announced at some point from Sucker Punch, and that is the Ghost of Tsushima sequel called Ghost of Yotei. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. I don't really care. I don't have an interest in this game. Ghost of Tsushima, which this is probably a hot take, is just another Ubisoft game in my opinion with more brutal combat, essentially. I did not like the game whatsoever. It had a lifeless, dead, empty open world that just served as padding in between quests. It had unskippable cutscenes and dialogue, and generally was just incredibly boring to me. I played it for 6 hours, was bored to tears, and never touched the game again. So didn't have an interest in the first game, definitely don't have an interest in the second game. But for people who were hoping for a Ghost of Tsushima 2, I guess you got some form of that. I know a lot of people aren't really too happy about them gender swapping the main character, which just falls in line with the general trend of Sony erasing masculinity in all of their franchises that have starred historically male characters. You know, God of War is now a story about toxic masculinity being bad. You know, Uncharted, Nathan Drake has a daughter, and Lost Legacy starred 2 women. The Last of Us, they killed off Joel so that you could play as two angry lesbians. You know, in Spider-Mid 3, you'll play as that Asian chick and Miles Morales, so basically two women as well. And the new Ratchet and Clank even, you play half the game as a woman as well. So this just falls into line with Sony's overall trend of erasing men from their first-party titles, and this is no different. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as to call it woke yet, but if you look into the voice actor who is playing the main character in this game, that is definitely an interesting rabbit hole to say the least. But yeah, I don't know, dude. I just don't have an interest in it because I didn't like the first game. So this announcement did absolutely nothing for me, and I think everyone was expecting this at some point, and I don't even think it was that exciting in all honesty. But yeah, that is everything that was shown off at the PlayStation 5 September 2024 State of Play. Overall, I'm giving this motherfucker a 2 out of 10. The only redeeming qualities to me were those few like PlayStation 1 remasters, and then obviously the Stellar Blade photo mode and Nier collab. So aside from that, I don't really think anything here stood out. The state of PlayStation's first party lineup is still just as dismal as it has always been, and honestly, I don't really think this served any other purpose other than to add to the general feeling of disappointment around Sony's next generation output when it comes to the PlayStation 5 generation. But let me know what you guys thought of this in the comments section below. Did you like the presentation? What would you rank it out of 10? And were you overall satisfied with what they showed off? But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on it. I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, I do want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to check out this video and for all the recent support as well. You guys are the fucking best, and I really do appreciate it. So with that shit said, I will catch you guys next time.